For lecture 3, we're going to introduce the transportation security systems after 9/11. So 9/11 here is a watershed I mentioned before. Okay, the attack on Twin Towers of World Trade Center. But before we discussing the attack itself and the change of transportation systems after this terrorist attack, I want to review the aviation security in 2001, especially in US, and later some information about aviation security in 2001 or before 9/11 around the world. Okay, so specifically in US in 2001, security system was essentially the same as in existence back in 1974, which means that people did not pay much attention on aviation security systems. Okay, so there was barely improvement. So shared and complementary responsibilities by FAA air carriers, which means airline companies and airports. Okay, so FAA minimum security standards for airports and air carriers. Carriers, they're responsible for screening, access, trained personnel in emergency procedures. Airports, they are responsible for law enforcement and facility security. So three stakeholders, they together were responsible for aviation security systems. Okay, and the attributes in air industry that hinder the implementation of security systems. First one, shared roles. We have three main stakeholders here. They have their own interests, which means that no one of them was fully responsible for aviation security, which means that none of them wanted to invest resources into aviation security. They just care what were related to themselves' interests. Okay, so there was no, say, high level, national level governmental agency who was responsible for unified policy, national standards, guidelines, and etc. Okay. Secondly, reactive nature of the system, which means crisis-driven pattern of the security system, right? If nothing went wrong, then we'll just keep it that way. Okay, and the U.S. passenger airlines are owned by private companies, and they are responsible for screening, access, trained personnel in emergency procedures. They're responsible for screening of checked luggage and cargo and etc. They do not have professionals from local government, from state government, from federal government to help them do that. So they employ private security companies to work for them. Okay, and FAA's role here is very interesting. FAA's dual mandate: promoting and regulating civil aviation. You can see here, promoting and regulating, there is conflict between these two mandates, right? If you want to promote a civil aviation, you should make civil aviation cheaper, easy to use, right? But on the other hand, if you want to regulate civil aviation, or say improve the security system of civil aviation, you need to put more money into it, into the development of security systems. You have to employ people, you have to put money in research, right? You have to train people. And all this will hinder the development of civil aviation, because you know that the cost of civil aviation will be higher than before, because you have to to invest in security. So regulating and promoting, they are not on the same direction. Okay, they are on the different direction, right? They're going to run into each other. So FAA's role here is very complex, right? I mean, if you were the head of FAA, what would you do? You have two mandates that are conflicting with each other, right? And also, security systems were considered, okay, were considered disruptive, of course, right? You need to slow down the traffic of passengers to do security check. You need more time to check, to examine the checked luggage, the cargo, right? There will be more steps before people can get aboard, right? So it is disruptive, but it is for security, and people should do that, but they didn't do that well, okay, in US. And here is a quote from 911 Commission. Remember this name. We're going to mention this commission many times in this class, okay? From their statement, before September 11, 2001, the aviation security system had been enjoying a period of relative peace. That was the most important reason that people did not pay enough attention on aviation security. Okay, no U.S. flagged aircraft had been bombed or hijacked in over a decade. Domestic hijacking, in particular, seemed like a thing of the past, something that could only happen to foreign airlines that were less well protected. Okay, so that was the atmosphere of aviation industry in terms of aviation security. Okay, so everybody was just so relaxing. Okay, nothing is going to happen on US aircraft, right? Everything was fine, so let's just keep it this way. So aviation security layers as 2001. So there were 6 layers there to protect the security of civil aircraft in 2001, 6 of them. And I used red color to mark 4 of them. These 4 layers, they were breached by terrorists to implement 911 attack. Okay, so the first layer is intelligence. Rely on CIA and FBI only general warnings to industry in spring and summer 2001. Okay, so there were warnings, but they were not well taken care of. Second layer, passenger pre-screening, a no-fly list by FAA and FAA approved an airlines administrator, a computer-assisted passenger pre-screening system. Obviously, this system did not work very well because several terrorists deboarded multiple planes, civil airplanes, on September 11 of 2001. So this layer was also breached or simply not good enough, okay? The third layer is passenger checkpoint screening. I'll just walk through metal detectors and X-ray machines, and a lot of them did not work very well, which means that they could fail to detect metal or even explosives. Okay, and the fourth layer here is aircraft and onboard security. Okay, there was something called Federal Air Marshal Program since 1961. Okay, which means that there can be armed federal marshal on civil planes, airplanes, Other passengers would not know that, but these marshals, if it is necessary, they can enforce the law on plane. But in 2001, no federal air marshal was on US airplanes. They were deployed all over the world on planes flying to other countries or from other countries to USA. But there was no domestic federal air marshals, which means no US domestic airplanes were carrying federal air marshals. And flight crews followed an FAA-approved strategy for hijackings, which did not assume suicide of hijackers. Because usually when an airplane is hijacked, usually these hijackers, they do not want to die. They prefer not to kill people on that airplane. They want property, they want ransom, they want political impact, but not killing themselves or killing passengers. But this time is different. Terrorists who were involved in 9/11, they decided, they were determined to kill passengers, to kill themselves for even larger political impact. Okay, so this layer was also useless. Because if you have room for negotiation, then flight crews, they can talk with hijackers to say, okay, we can give you the money you want, we can give you what you want, but just stay calm, we can land and we can negotiate. But this is not the case. You cannot talk with attackers who wanted simply to run into a tower, the World Trade Center, right? And the last two layers, they had nothing to do with 9/11 attack, okay? But there are also layers, aviation security layers, as 2001. The fifth one is called airport access control. The last one is checked baggage or luggage and cargo screening. So you can say there were 6 layers, security layers, and 4 of them did not work very well, or some of them, they were simply breached by the attackers, by the terrorists who carried out 9/11 attack. Okay. So around the world, how did aviation securities perform as of 2001? So there were foiled attacks or stopped from happening attacks, okay, on aviation. So according to Ariel, according to, I think his literature from 1947 to 1996, okay, 31% of hijackings, 19% terrorist hijackings, and 70% of all bombing attempts. Okay, which means 31 of all hijackings were stopped. Okay, here is the data for foiled attacks, right? So from 1987 to 1996, 19% of hijackings were stopped, 15% terrorist hijackings, and 24% of all bombing attempts were stopped. Okay, which means that you can see these percentages, they were very low. Okay, which means that the aviation security system were very bad. They were poorly performed because authorities with short sight, you cannot blame them. Politicians, usually they are voted by people, and sometimes they have to focus on what is going on right now. If you want to invest something that is valuable in future, a lot of voters would not agree with that. Okay, as a result, they are short-sighted. But sometimes you simply cannot say directly blame them for not doing anything. Okay, it's not an excuse, it's simply a fact, I would say that. Okay, and airline companies based security system, which means the government's role in aviation security systems was just too weak. Okay, it means that when it comes to such a complex realm, aviation security system, you need government at different levels, not only at national or federal level, at state level, province level, or at local level. The government should play more important roles. Those government agencies, they should play more important roles in the development of aviation security systems, because government has the authority to legislate, right? To implement policies. Private companies, they cannot do that. And also the purpose of private companies is what? Is earning money, right? We're in a world of capitalism, right? If they can just put less money in aviation security systems and everything is just going fine, they would not pay more money for security, right? And this should be the time that government steps in and say, okay, these are the laws, okay? These are the policies you need to follow. Okay, so private companies, you cannot expect more responsibilities, more security responsibilities from them. You have to ask them, use regulations, use policies to force them to enhance their security systems. Okay? Okay, now let's talk about what happened on September 11, okay, 2001. So there was actually a prelude for the 9/11 attack. So it also happened in World Trade Center. It is 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Okay, here are some pictures of that time from that incident, from that attack. So on February 26th of 1993, a truck bomb was detonated below the North Tower of World Trade Center in New York City. So these twin towers, they were not firstly attacked on September 11th of 2001. They were actually attacked in 1993. So this attack killed 6 people and injured over 1,000. Okay, a member of Al Qaeda financed the attack, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and used transportation vehicles as weapon to damage U.S. economy. The pattern here is very similar to 9/11 attack. But back in 1993, a truck was used instead of multiple airplanes. Okay, the purpose is also similar. So the purpose was to damage U.S. economy, because a World Trade Center used to be a symbol of U.S. business, right? And damaging U.S. economy is also one of purposes of 9/11 attack, right? You can search online and say what happened in stock market of U.S. or even around the world after 9/11. It was a disaster. Okay, and other impacts, other purposes could include political impact, and the revenge. Okay, the so-called revenge. So specifically, Khalid began to plan the 9/11 attack since 1998 after a meeting with bin Laden. So it's the same person, Khalid, who financed the attack of 1993 World Trade Center bombing. So he was also behind the 9/11 attack. So that's the reason why 1993 World Trade Center bombing can be considered as a prelude of 9/11 attack. Okay. Then let's talk about 9/11 terrorist attack. Okay. Here is a map, thematic map, showing flight path of the planes involved in September 11 or 9/11 attack. So on September 11th of 2001, 4 passenger airliners were hijacked by Al-Qaeda terrorists. So you can say it was a big project, the attack itself, because 4 instead of 1 airplanes were hijacked almost simultaneously. Okay, so 2 crashed into WTC in New York. They are American Airline 11 and United Airline 175. So this red trajectory here is for AA11. Okay, it's from Boston to New York. And another one is UA175. The trajectory of this plane is addressed by this brown line. Okay, it's also from Boston to New York. Okay, another one, American Airlines 77 crashed into Pentagon. Okay, the green one here. Okay, the green trajectory is for AA77. And the last one, UA93, crashed into a field in Pennsylvania. The blue line right here, the blue trajectory here. Okay, it was because that the crew and passengers they fought with terrorists on that plane. So eventually that plane did not hit anything. Instead of that, it crashed in Pennsylvania. So 9/11 attack, 9/11 attack killed 2,970 people, 77 people, injured over 25,000. Okay, including passengers, firefighters, right, police officers, civilians on the ground involved, and people involved. Okay, led to a physical damage of $55 billion and an economic impact of what, $123 billion. And these figures are just showing you the impact you can directly feel. And how about geopolitics around the world? How about the war launched by President Bush in Iraq? Okay, and you can say that this attack permanently changed the U.S. and also changed the whole world. Okay, and the anti-terrorism was there before 9/11, but was not that important to this world, to all countries on this planet. But after that, since United States, which is the most powerful country on this planet, launched a war against terrorism, the whole world followed. Okay, so 9/11 is a milestone of human history. I would say that. Okay, it was the most devastating attack on U.S. soil since the attack of Pearl Harbor on December 7 of 1941. It was during the Second World War, and it was not about terrorism. Okay, it was a declaration of war from Japan to United States, but this time it's from terrorism. It's a terrorist attack. So after that, you can imagine that the whole world paid since 9/11. Okay, since 9/11, the whole world has been paying much more attention on aviation security systems because people realized how bad it could be. if aviation security systems were breached by bad people, simply say that, not necessarily terrorists, but say by bad people, right? Terrorists, they are just a part of bad people, criminals, right? Okay, so this is 9/11 terrorist attack.